Hey, 7:19. I don't know what is happening.
This room is this is a hotspot trouble times. You know.
Welcome into Wingin' It Wednesday.
We said once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should make it happen now. I think the time has come because we said once upon a time that we were going to bring Wingin' It Wednesday on the road. So I think we should do it. I think we should bring Wingin' It Wednesday on the road.
Is there
to the jail?
Maybe when they close down the portion of the jail, we can do our studio in those cells. We can bring some mics over there and do it that way.
Can we bring Kenneth Boudreaux and part of the city council with us?
I think anyone that wants to show up can show up.
They can come with us. Okay, good morning. Wingin' It Wednesday, 7:20 on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Warren, you're an internet superstar.
Why?
For what you had to say last week about the statue in Lee Circle.
Oh, boy.
And you know what? Maybe you had a moment, and I just want to go ahead and give you a chance to say maybe you didn't mean that, or you'd like to correct the record on that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I should not have used the W word in there, but look, I mean, that's what made New Orleans famous. All right. You know, partying, drinking, prostitution. You know, they had the famous place over at Storyville, which was world famous. You know, up until what, about 1920 or something.
I thought about 2014. It's popular. The lights are off, but it's, you know.
But I mean, I should have added. Well, y'all cut me off. Y'all cut me off because I wanted to have something in there about the corrupt politicians.
Yeah.
Picking people's pockets and all that. But anyway.
All right, good.
I love New Orleans, though. I really, really do. There's nothing better than on a hot summer night going to a party on St. Charles Street, the streetcars clanging along, drinking Dixie beer in a long neck bottle, wearing a Panama Jack
I think he's
hat.
having a memory flashback
I was about
here.
to say, you've transported me there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's start.
Except for the beer.
You know, Tom Benson's trying to bring Dixie back to New Orleans. He bid for the company,
Did
which
it
is
leave?
now moved.
Well,
yeah, it's been owned out of state and made out of state for a while. He wants to bring it back.
Warren, just watch for it. He'll be in the legislature getting a subsidy for bringing it back to Louisiana.
Big time.
Just watch for it.
Okay.
Sorry to be so cynical, but I watched him get the money for the Superdome. We're going to leave unless we get that money. And boy, they have their own taxing district.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how about we're going to call it the Louisiana Superdome? That only lasted for a few months until it had a name, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, so it didn't matter anyway.
Well, it's like Louisiana School for Art Sciences. And how many names can you tack on, huh?
Yeah.
The Mercedes-Benz Louisiana Superdome.
All right. It's been a busy week.
Everybody feels feisty this morning, I think.
It's chipper. I think that, you know, we need to ask Daniel Phillips two things. Number one is the sun coming back, and number two, what's the humidity level outside?
I
feel like it's a little bit less humid than normal because we're all a little bit happy.
Yeah.
So we have followed what's happened in London the entire week. Hard turn on that one. Another terror attack happened in London. More in the Middle East since then. You know, talking about the Superdome, it kind of makes me think of Mardi Gras or other big events that we have here. It sort of seems like the clock is ticking for us to have a terror attack here or another one. You know, the last big one was the Pulse nightclub shooting that happened in Orlando. We're coming up on the year anniversary of that. You know, as a country, I'm interested in what you guys think. Are we prepared for that to happen? Are we prepared to respond to that? Carol, you can start this one off.
That's a good question. I mean, we civilians who don't really know, we pray and hope. We certainly have enough intelligence agencies out there spying on everybody and their brother. So we should, I mean, I'm serious. They are. And so we should have enough intelligence to be able to stop this. But we've had so much stupidity, especially along the southern border, when you have Border Patrol people saying at least 3 or 4 years ago when I checked that there were at least 59,000 OTMs, other than Mexicans, coming across the border, and they don't know who they are and where they are. Mm-hmm. I suspect they do know who they are and where they are. They just don't want to let it out that they know who they are and where they are, and I'm hoping that's the case. Because if they can get the kind of data they can on you and me, they should be able to track these people.
Yeah, the part that scared me about the London thing was how many people they're watching. I think the number that I heard was 20,000, and they said they couldn't even keep up with.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the guys involved in this London attack, he was featured in a documentary called The Jihadi Next Door.
And I saw it.
Probably maybe the most well-known jihadi living there, and didn't know this was going to happen.
And he was one of the ones on the London Bridge, and they're They've been told by ISIS, because ISIS is losing ground, as we've heard, and is losing clout. And so what they're doing is telling these lone wolf guys, or 2 or 3 guys, to go out and use whatever you can, trucks, knives, whatever it is you can, to try to still keep their image polished up so they can continue to recruit. But I think that that's a matter of time. I believe that this is going to continue. They're going to continue to be degraded, so we have to be ever vigilant about these kinds of things. They always go after the iconic things, too.
Yeah.
The things that are symbols of Western civilization. I mean, that London Bridge, how many times have they attacked on the London Bridge? They're talking about the Eiffel Tower again. Yeah. You know, Paris had another attack at Notre Dame. Yeah.
That guy yelled, "This one's for Syria," before he was shot and killed.
Right.
You know, according to the people in that area.
That's more than one.
Syria.
I think that several times they've yelled, "This is for Syria." So they gin these people up with, you know, with a false cause, really.
I'll tell you, having been to Paris one time, and it was shortly after the last attack happened there, the Eiffel Tower, I mean, we took pictures and everything, and I told my wife, I don't want to be anywhere near this. I mean, because you're there, you're sort of like, you're standing right by the golden egg.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to do something, I mean, you want to talk about pat downs, what a lot of people don't realize is under the pillars, the 4 pillars, that's where the public restrooms are, which you don't want to use in Paris anyway.
Definitely not.
But, you know, sometimes when you got to go, you got to go. Anyway, pat downs. I mean, pat downs
Duck
get into the
one of the
bathrooms.
cafes nearby.
Yeah.
And
get some bread
buy
and butter.
some espresso or whatever.
Warren, what are your really thoughts about this? I mean, yeah, we are looking at everyone. We think, are we prepared?
I think we're probably well prepared to respond. Are we prepared to prevent it? I don't know. That's the big question. And I do think this is that the more of these things that keep coming out, the more that it's going to harden the people against that group who are intent on changing the world by violence. You know, that the only thing you can really do is, once it happens, is that the response has got to be swift and it has to be brutal. It can't just go in there and start threatening to arrest people and all that. I think the worst thing about it is and President Trump said this the other day about London, is that you can't just treat these things as business as usual and just tell people, well, you know, these things are just going to happen, you know. And, well, maybe they are just going to happen, but you gotta make it where you inflict pain on the people who put those suicide bombers out there and who put those people, what you just got through saying, you know, they're out there trying to push the lone wolves and all that. You know, what we really need to do is, in law enforcement, our intelligence communities, maybe what we need to really do is go back a few years and do what they were doing in the 60s, in the late 50s and 60s, where they recruited the mafia for help. You know, when they were going to kill Castro, but nobody could do it, so they said, well, you know, get Sam Giancana and see what he can do. And even he couldn't get it done. But, I mean, maybe we need to do that. Say, look, these are the bad guys. You know, somebody needs to take care of them before they strike.
Yeah.
And I really and truly, you know, I hate to say it, but I really and truly think that, you know, that's what we did with the Klan. You know, and look, there's nothing worse than a radicalized religious zealot who thinks that it's their duty to go out and kill people in the name of God. And, you know, and that the Klan put itself out there as a Christian organization. You know, all of their literature and all that's the symbol for the cross, because they were Christians, and that's why they didn't accept Jews, and Catholics couldn't belong to it, and blah, blah. So, you know, and so how did we wind up getting rid of the Klan? You know, just that way, targeted them, and they went after them.
You bring us to our next topic, almost exactly talking about Christians and killing people. Clay Higgins dividing people on social media with his post this week. He is responding. We'll talk about that next on Wingin' It Wednesday when we return. Brought to you by Service Cadillac, our friends over at 1212 and 1214 Ambassador Caffrey, where it is Wash It Up Wednesday. Go over there, get your car washed, drive a clean ride this summer. Why? The rain is finally going to stop.
Yay!
You might want to put the top down on your convertible, and who wants to put the top down on a dusty convertible? You know?
Not me.
Could be.
You make a great point, man.
Could be quite an analogy there. All right, it is 7:29 at News Talk 96.5 KPEL. 7:33 at KPEL. Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News. Clay Higgins was actually on the Ross Report yesterday. Did a little bit of an interview. He's been in the news this week regarding a Facebook post he made, and it's kind of funny. when you cover someone like we have of Clay Higgins, you can read his Facebook posts and you hear exactly what he's saying. Okay, I think what he meant by his Facebook post was talking about, those radical Islamic terrorists that are intent on killing people in the West and changing our way of life. We need to just go out and kill them. Well, a lot of people saw the buzzword Christian or Christendom, which he used, and we should just kill them and say, those two things just don't go. And I told Bernie, I walked in about 20 minutes after he put that on Facebook, and I was watching who was retweeting it. And it was networks who probably had no idea who he was before, since he was the Cajun John Wayne. Just different people. And I said, this isn't going to go well. Well, then he responded and said, look, I don't mince my words. I say what I mean, and that's where we are. We'll start with you on this one, Carol. You did talk to him yesterday. Any insight on what he...
He is what he is. I don't think he meant it Christendom in a sense of crusading and going out and killing just anybody. The problem was one word, suspect, Islamic terror suspect. I think what he meant to say was Islamic terrorists, period.
Yeah.
He should have left that word off. But I'm not going to interpret for him. He said what he said, and he did not mean it in a crusading kind of way, going after anybody and everybody who's a Muslim. No, I don't believe he meant that at all. But I do think, when you see the Huffington Post and Mother Jones and all that going out and interviewing Christians that they know are, they're leftists. Christianity includes so many different philosophies, people who have many different political persuasions, and so they found a Jesuit priest in the Huffington Post. That another one found Mother Jones found sort of another reliable liberal. And so you're going to get all sorts of interpretations of this. But having met Mr. Higgins, having spoken to him on many occasions, I don't believe he has hate in his heart at all. But what he does, like he said, I like to call it like I see it, and these are Islamic terrorists, and they are killing people, and we can't afford to let them have any quarter. Wherever they take hold, it really is not good for people. And as a woman, let me tell you something. I really relate to that, because you look at how women are treated in those countries where they have taken over, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, women above all, and gays. The people who would normally, support getting rid of Islamic terrorists just because a guy like Clay Higgins makes a mistake in the way he phrased it, because that's what I think it was, a mistake in the way he phrased it.
Well, he didn't run on the platform of being an expert wordsmith.
Or being politically correct, and that was his whole point. I am not politically correct.
Looking at social media posts from around here, there were, I think, a lot of his supporters that liked exactly what he said.
And his supporters understood what he meant.
Warren, what are your thoughts?
Especially people on the right, on the conservative side of the spectrum or whatever, they're always going to get chastised for anything they say in any kind of a way, shape, form, or fashion. Just like we were just talking about earlier about what CNN took on Donald Trump and his religion and the church and blah, 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 and blah, blah, and said, when did they ever come up with any of that with President Obama about his religion and where he went to church and all. And so anyway, that Clay Higgins, I think what he said, he meant about, taking out the bad guys, those who are the actual bad guys. And look, we keep throwing this term around, war, the war on terror. Well, terror is a tactic. The terrorists are not a group of known people that are in uniform, that are the Third Reich or whatever, So you have to go seek them out, and then you have to dispatch them. And,
Warren, you're right. That's another point that Clay Higgins made on the show yesterday afternoon, that it's not a state army that we're dealing with.
But, it goes back to what the former president of LSU said in 1864, when he made his march through Georgia.
Were you around then too?
And he burnt Georgia, my ancestors' property and killed them. And he said, war is hell. And so he said, he believed in total warfare. You go through there and you inflict as much pain and damage on the people as you possibly can, and you'll get them to where they will say, stop. I give up. And it is hard to imagine, but that is what war is all about. And if you're going to sit there and claim the war on terror, and I keep telling everybody, we're not at war with anybody. You know, we're going through these limited kind of actions and this, that, and the other. Well, we're afraid to bomb that group. Well, we're afraid to do this and blah, blah, blah. And if you shoot the wrong person, God forbid, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, how the hell am I supposed to know who to shoot? And they said, well, you shoot them, and then we'll tell you whether or not it was the right person to shoot. You know, if you don't shoot them, you get shot.
Having just celebrated D-Day, we remember what war, the last war that we actually fought to conclusion, which was winning. And that was World War II.
That is correct.
Think about Korea. Think about Vietnam.
Let me make one statement right quick.
Okay, wrap this one up for us, Warren.
I'm just reading in the paper here where it's talking about the disparity in finding people guilty, whether they're black or white, in the military court martials and stuff. And it says the Marine Corps has got the least amount of disparity. But it says of those who get acquitted in a court martial. And my point is, when in the hell did they start acquitting anybody in a Marine Corps court martial?
I'm with you. We will talk about a similar topic coming up with a new lawsuit filed against the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office and their kind of response, non-response. That coming up on the show. This is Wingin' It Wednesday, brought to you by Service Cadillac. Look, can you imagine going on one of those summer road trips and being able to power all the laptops, all the cell phones, all the iPads with the 4G hotspot located inside the car?
That's grand.
Let me tell you,
awesome.
It's a dream come true. Once you get to that last hour, you're taking a road trip somewhere and you get to that last hour where you just want to be there. I'm sorry to say, parenting experts, close your ears. I give them a phone. Go to pbskids.com. Figure something out. Get a certified pre-owned Cadillac.
Knock yourself out,
there.
Kids.
Yeah, knock yourself out. You want some Coke too? Have some Coke too.
Is that after you give them Benadryl?
Yeah. Just before the whiskey. Same warranty as new Cadillacs for certified pre-owns. That's 6 years or 70,000 miles. Relax and experience the difference at Service Cadillac. Stay with us. There's more Wingin' It Wednesday coming up. 7:46. I mean, that's a joke in itself. It's a joke in itself, guys. You know Janet, our receptionist, she has to be the unfunniest funny person I've ever met.
She's hilarious.
But she always has jokes.
So maybe what we should say right here is that it's Mike Grimsley's birthday today.
It sure is.
And he loves to tell jokes, so maybe...
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
Gosh, sequence before 8 a.m., Carol? Come on.
That was beautiful, Carol. Maybe
Thank you so much.
Maybe you could tell the wine joke.
Oh, yeah. I'm out getting coffee, right? Janet runs a whole bunch of jokes by me, and she says, let me test this one on you. Let me test this one on you. But the good one was, what does the green grape say to the purple grape? Breathe.
Mike, that one is for you.
That's right. Happy birthday.
The special birthday edition of Wingin' It Wednesday.
That's right.
From the very late Carol Ross.
Yes, exactly.
I haven't been late in a long time.
That was what Peter Lawford said.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Peter Lawford.
Okay. The late Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was not happy. He was not happy. Anyway. Let's just move on.
Just kidding. There were 1,000 things I wanted to say, but all of them would have gotten us all in trouble.
Let's just try to maybe move on. So, you want to talk? What do you want to talk about? RedFlex?
Anything else?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. RedFlex.
Okay,
let's get the juices flowing here.
Let's talk about RedFlex. Commuters rejoice. You don't sometimes sit at those red lights and just watch it like it's a thunderstorm. With the lights just continue to flash at different intersections. Right now, they are effectively unplugged while the city is working on a new contract. It's believed it's going to be with a different company. But, I mean, this comes 10 years after it all started, and people, have criticized that decision with RedFlex ever since it started just because of the company itself. Warren, I mean, is another company just going to come in and do the same thing, use the same cameras, or are we going to see a little bit different situation, maybe improve kind of opinion about it?
Well, they're not going to use the same cameras, of course, because they belong to the that first group. But I don't think people didn't object to it because it was RedFlex. The real reason people objected to it is because it was against the state law. But in Louisiana, governments don't have to follow the law. You know, it's the only state in the world where you can say shooting craps is not gambling. The only state in the world, you know, when they said that playing video poker was not gambling, and I said that's right. I agreed with that because when you gamble, you at least have a shot at winning.
This is gaming, and the game is on you.
Right, and then when they come up with this, I mean, it was a total sham. And they come in there and say, well, we can't do this thing. And the RedFlex salesman was on tape. Was on video in front of Alexandria City Council talking about how that, well, it is actually against the state law to issue tickets, but in Louisiana you can get around that by making this a civil ordinance. And if you notice, though, the guy who was in charge of traffic here, I forgot his name.
Tony Traffic.
Please,
Tony
Traffic. I didn't want to hear that name again. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
he was very, very, very thorough about never using the word ticket. Never using the word violation of law. Every time he says it's a civil violation of a civil ordinance, you know. And that this is what I find so offensive is that they tap dance around the thing. You change it so that, you know, that you can steal people's money. As the man said yesterday I talked to, he said, I call it the stupid tax. Because if you're stupid enough to pay the damn citation, then you deserve to lose the money. And that, you know, that people have said over and over and over, it's illegal for them to try to collect the money from you. This company, RedFlex, has admitted basically that they are a criminal organization. Their president is in jail. They even said at their last one of their stockholders meetings here not too long ago that they planned on getting out of the traffic enforcement because of all the criminal investigations and the problems they've had with their executives quitting, going to jail, and whatever. And so they wanted to concentrate on things like tolls and parking lots, license plate recognition, and those kind of things, which are kind of legitimate reasons to be doing that. But, I mean, you know, they tried to go back and say, all right, who's running down your driver's license record? Because not everybody's supposed to be able to do that. Oh, we screen our people. We screen them. Oh, they're above and beyond reproach. They had somebody in Arizona who was falsifying as a notary, was notarizing things in Arizona of people's signatures in Lafayette. And then when it went to court, whatever, that person got lost their notary license and all that.
Yep.
So then you had this girl here in Lafayette who left work one afternoon. She was running the office over there. She got a DWI within about 10 minutes of pulling out of that parking lot. Now, you know that she had to be drunk at work, but she was above and beyond reproach. But whenever they turned around and ran the record on her, she had I don't remember what it was, but I mean, it was multiple offenses where she'd been arrested for drug possession, abuse, and she already had, I think, at least one other DUI or whatever. You know, in my opinion, that company is a criminal organization, and that I think it ought to be put to a vote. First of all, it needs to be passed through the legislature that says this stuff is legal.
Yeah.
And when they can't get it through the legislature, so they tap dance around and say, well, you can't rule it illegal. Well, hell, it's already illegal.
You know, Carol, I always thought it was funny because it takes one Google search of RedFlex to show you every other state where they have said, like just
get
like
out.
you said, criminal
told
organization
them
or
to get
or
out.
we're saying gone.
They were under indictment in 14 states. Look at the red light camera crime line.
So
just check it out.
Why, when we would bring it up here, it was almost like, well, it was treated almost as if it's a different company.
Because in the beginning, and this is just me and my memory, and I'm sure these two will jump in. In the beginning,
I'm sure they will.
I trust that y'all will jump in.
You trust that.
Or jump on me. Beat
Tell
me
us
up,
when.
You know.
Tell us when, Bernie.
The earth was without form and void.
In the beginning, yeah. When we first started talking about RedFlex, there was not nearly the amount of material now that there is. And boy, the debates were wild back then.
Yeah.
Well, there kind of was, except it was an ongoing process of finding that these people were criminals and were under indictment in about 14 states. But here's what a former council member who got off the council and is now back on the council, you all can figure out who that is, told me when they were doing the original contract that, we didn't want to get it political. It's a government contract for millions of dollars. You think it's not political? So they allowed Mr. Tony Traffic to do, quote unquote, to award the contract, even after this council member had gone to Arizona to see the other guys, ATS, their operation. How do I know? Because some friends of mine who are good conservatives asked me look into helping ATS. But by that time, the skids had been greased. It was way too late. RedFlex already had the contract. So, and I have said over and over again, I don't really have a problem with cameras at the intersection. It's the speed vans that bother me. When I've talked to law enforcement people, some of them have that trepidation too. But then the chief, I went to talk to the chief when they were still, those private contractors were still looking at running the, whether you get a ticket or not. And a lot of people complained. I went to talk to former Chief Kraft and I said, you know what? First of all, you should be getting more money. Secondly, let the police, run this thing. I mean, if you're going to rent the proprietary equipment from RedFlex. Thirdly, who negotiated this stupid deal? They got 60%, we got 40%. That's exactly what it was. In New Orleans, they own ATS runs over there. They're marginally better than RedFlex. But look at who's on the selection committee in Lafayette and look who's lobbying for ATS. And that will tell you a lot about who's going to get the contract, who already has the contract, whether they've awarded it or not. Believe me, the skids are greased. It's already done. ATS runs the cameras in New Orleans. They get 30%. 30%. So everybody look at the deal. Now, in RedFlex, what we never knew was, did they get 60% of the citations issued or 60% of what was collected.
Right.
Big difference right there. So you got to look at that. The other thing is we have $12 million in uncollected fines, and I guarantee you $10 million of that's from lawyers who know that they can't collect it. I promise you that.
So, yeah, I was about to say, what happens to that? I remember we used to have a name.
Yeah.
It was like the top RedFlex offender.
Yes, exactly. It was a lawyer.
Yeah. Oh, is that who it was?
I'm pretty sure it was a lawyer.
Because it was so funny because it was always like, well,
now,
what's going to happen to her now?
This is what the crime line.
Chris tonight. She's safe.
This is what the crime line says. And I'll get more into this on the Ross Report, but I'm just going to say real quick. The crime line introduces red light cameras and speed cameras presented as tools of law enforcement, but they're privately owned. Their employees and public officials are often caught disregarding the law. Karen Finley, who was the former president, she was under indictment in 2014. Yes. The last time I looked, she just went to jail. Former RedFlex executive vice president Aaron Rosenberg admits he bribed officials in more than 10 states.
Wow.
Was Louisiana one of them? One can only imagine.
Why wouldn't it be? Warren, wrap this one up for us.
I don't even know where to start with all that stuff. It's
well, you could start by going 50 through an intersection now.
The real thing they came out with and said that that you expect more police presence. Well, good. That's their job. That's what it's supposed to be doing. But here's the real point. When you outsource law enforcement to a private company where they have a monetary incentive to take money away from you, why don't we outsource taxes to them? Why don't we have a private company that comes in and says, okay, this company is going to be handling all the taxes for the state of Louisiana. They're going to go through your tax return. They're going to determine how much you owe, and then they're going to go collect it. How would the people like that? The more that they punish you, the more money they get, and they get a percentage of everything they would take in. God, I would love that contract. No, I wouldn't either, because it's so outrageous.
By the way, I just heard Mr. Boudreau on this show talking about how they try to be so transparent. You want to be transparent? Put this to a vote of the people. You wanted to give us a vote on the taxes? Big-hearted Kenneth Boudreau, they're removing all restrictions. They're going to let us vote again on the millages, which, as you know, I didn't have anything against the millages. I thought they were necessary. I voted for them. However, they shot themselves in the foot by limiting, how many times they could call an election. Now they have to remove that resolution and go forward. You want to give us an opportunity to vote? Put this one on the ballot along with the opportunity to vote for those millages.
Wingin' It Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, Warren Caudle, Carol Ross. You can get more of Carol Ross. On the Ross Report this afternoon, you can imagine RedFlex. As red as her face is, RedFlex will probably be a topic this afternoon.
Nonsense at Cité des Arts. First time I ever saw Bernie. First time I ever saw Bernie. She was in the front row at Angel Hall.
Yes.
For Nonsense. It is such a great show. Cité des Arts this weekend and next, I believe. So if you haven't seen Nonsense, let me tell you, they do such a wonderful job. And kudos to Maureen Brennan. That woman has done Cité des Arts virtually on her own with the help of a few friends, and she's really built that into a real wonderful venue.
Yep.
And Nonsense this weekend, next weekend. I think the next 2 weekends actually.
All right.
It's worth seeing.
We have the information on our website, kpel965.com, 7:58. We're back after this.